Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Yusuf here from Dental Reviews, and I hope you're all well. Now, today's video we're looking at some loupes from a company called UKLoupes. Now, if you're unaware of them, they're a company obviously based in the UK, and they distribute a variety of different loupes that they have available on their website, which you're free to browse. They also stock Surgitel loupes. Surgitel are a company based in the US, so they're a distributor here in the UK. But they sent me quite a few different loupes to try out, and the ones that I was quite interested in trying were their ones called the PosturePros. Now, the reason why is because you may have seen my previous videos where I've reviewed refractive loupes, namely the Bryant Dental ones, and I made quite a long video about it, discussing various different things when it comes to loupes, ergonomics, etc., etc. So feel free to check that out. But I did want to give a review from another company's refractives just to compare them. So the ordering is done online. You enter your interpupillary distance and your working length, which doesn't necessarily matter so much for these loupes, and I'll explain why a little bit later. And then of course you'll receive the loupes as I did. So I'll go straight into reviewing the product of my initial thoughts when I first got them. So first and foremost, when I tried them on, everything was fine in terms of the measurements. The interpupillary distance was absolutely fine, didn't have any issues there. First thing I noticed when I popped them on was simply how crisp the image was, and I wasn't expecting the loupe quality to be of that standard in all honesty. The image that you see is super crisp. There's a lot of detail in what you see. It's got a really wide field of view, which is nice to see. It's not too restrictive. You've also got the infinity view, which means that you don't see the inner barrel or the inner working of the loupe housing itself, which is nice because that improves peripheral vision, which is pretty good with these. And again, I'll discuss that a little bit later. It's also quite a big image, and the reason for that is because the loupe itself is quite wide, so that really helps with the field of view. And another thing which is really nice is how they feel when you've got them on. They're very comfortable, they're very lightweight. In fact, they only weigh 61 grams, which so far are the lightest loupes I've tested when it comes to prismatic loupes, which is pretty impressive. They're quite similar to my Dual Optics in a sense that these weigh in at 61 grams, which is very impressive. Also, the nose pads fit really nicely on your nose. I haven't had any issues when having these on for long periods of time. The overall build quality of the loupes is very good. These are titanium. These are quite a standard looking set of loupes. They do have different options to buy. I think they've got circular ones and more sports types frames, which is of course dependent on whatever you're into. I also really like the overall design of the loupes themselves. I think they look quite slick, and the gunmetal finish that they have, they don't look too bulky. They actually look quite streamlined, so it's nice to see that they've done well with the design there. Now, you may already know if you watched my previous videos that I don't generally wear ergonomic loupes, and it's simply because of the type of work that I do, in a sense that I do a lot more oral surgery, and it's a bit awkward to wear refractives all the time. But I did want to persist and give it a go. And it's always funny when I have them on for the first time, particularly in the hospital. The nurses are always confused as to where I'm looking, because especially if you've got an assistant, they just think that you're staring at them. So sometimes it can take a bit of time for the team around you to get used to how you work with patients. So as I said, I tried it for a variety of different procedures, and obviously for general dentistry, it works fine. But with oral surgery, I mean, it is doable, but it's not my go-to. It's not something that I would necessarily recommend for all types of oral surgery. It can be a bit awkward, as I said previously, when working on the maxilla. But that does lead me to the working distance. So these loupes have a varying working distance, which I thought initially was quite interesting because I didn't know if I would really use it. Normally I'll think that I'll just set it to the distance that I normally work at and just keep it at that, which I generally did for general dentistry. However, I found it to be quite useful when I was working with my DCT, and of course I was supervising them doing a procedure and their oral surgery, and of course I wanted them to be comfortable with the patient, so they adjusted the patient exactly where they wanted them to be, and I was able to have my loupes on and just get my nurse to adjust the loupe position to have it at a longer working distance so that I didn't have to lean over. I thought that that's a pretty cool feature which I never knew that I would really need. Also, the working distance can get really long with these, so much so that when you've got them on and you put them at the highest working distance, you could almost lean back in a chair like this and perform dentistry, which is, I don't know, maybe for some people, they might want to practice dentistry sitting in a chair like this that I have. Maybe it's possible one day, but it's definitely possible with these loupes. So if you're that dentist looking for a specific type of ergonomic loupes that allows you to sit in a chair like this, then maybe these are the one for you. I think this is the closest that we'll ever be to having a desk job, sitting in a type of chair like this and doing dentistry. The only thing I would say, which is a bit confusing with the dials, is that they don't have any numbers or indication as to how much you've changed the loop, apart from the distance where it expands. So you're sort of having to guesstimate roughly where the working distance is for each loop, which is generally fine. I'm sure you're going to get it into a reasonable position, but I was always worried that they weren't in the right position, so maybe I was straining one eye more than the other. So maybe it would be nice if they had some arbitrary dots, maybe some colored dots, or even if they had numbers that you could just line them up, just so that if you're someone like me, you're not constantly worrying that you haven't got them in the same position. Having said that, what I really like about these twisty dials is that they have a premium feel, in a sense that they don't move easily. They've got quite a nice damp and throw. Yeah, so definitely a premium feeling loop. And throughout my time of testing them, the barrel hasn't changed by itself. So again, that's reassuring. And I would hope that after using them for many years, it doesn't get loose or become slap. Now, I didn't get to try these with a light system, which I really wish I could have, because as you know, if you're somebody that wears loupes, the light is almost as important as the quality of the optics, I would say. But nonetheless, having used them without a light attached to them, they still give me a really crisp image, which was good to see. I did ask UKLoupes about their lighting systems, and they do have two different types. So they have a wired type, which only supposedly weighs 5 grams, so it shouldn't add too much weight to this. They also have a wireless system. Generally, me personally, I prefer a wired system. If you're going to go for refractive loupes from UKLoupes, I would highly, highly recommend to get a combination with the light. It makes all the difference. And I'll just mention the lighting system and their website and everything else, because I think it's important. When you browse the website, you can see the loupe and the type of magnification that you want. And of course, it does adjust the price, which I'll touch on very shortly. But when it comes to the lights, they don't bundle it together, or they don't give you the option on that specific page, which I feel that they should, because I'm sure people want to buy the loupes with the light. They make it confusing by having a separate page for it. I feel like they should just have options when purchasing the loupe. There is one thing I should mention, which is a negative about these, and many loupes in all honesty, is the lens. I find that these did fog up when using them first thing in the morning, which, if you're somebody who has experienced fogging loupes, it is so frustrating, so much so that you just want to end up taking off your loupes. Again, this is a message to all loupe companies, and I feel like I say this in most of my videos, but I wish that all of them would have a true anti-fog coating so that we don't have to experience that, because again, it is exceptionally frustrating having foggy loupes. So as I said, I will talk about the price of these loupes, and these are £1,550 as of recording. These are for the 4.5 times magnification, which I feel is quite reasonably priced if you compare them to other loupe companies. For example, Bryant Dental, which have similar type magnification, they're refractive pros without the light. At this time is £2,995, so just shy of £3,000. So that's almost £1,400 different, which is a lot of money. So you have to ask yourself, are they worth that much more? Or, would you rather spend that money on other things, which is, I think it's completely reasonable, particularly if you're a young dentist, you're just starting out, or if you're a student or newly qualified, you could use that money for various different things. For example, specific CPD you want to do, or even your camera gear, which is super important. And I'd highly recommend any young dentist watching this to really think about investing in good camera gear. I will hopefully do some videos in the future about photography and equipment and things which I would recommend. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But as I said, it's a lot. That is quite a substantial difference when it comes to cost. But again, that is really up to you as to what you think. But in my personal opinion, I don't think it's really a £1,400 difference in quality. In fact, I'd say that the image quality is probably quite similar. So what's my overall verdict when it comes to these loupes, or these refractive loupes from the UKLoupes company? In my opinion, I actually recommend them. I think they're really good, and that's coming from someone like me who doesn't use refractives usually. I managed to get on with them really well. Of course, I've spoken in the past about how not everyone needs refractive loupes. You can get away, or you can perfectly use normal traditional loupes just with a good declination angle and good ergonomics. So you can watch my previous videos on that. But if you're somebody who is really set on having refractive loupes, then I think that these are a great option for you. I think you're going to really like them. You're going to be really impressed with the image quality and the field of view and the clarity. It's really, really good. And of course, they're at a good price point if you compare them to other companies. But I would definitely say make sure you get them with a light. I would always say that's mandatory. I wouldn't get them by themselves. I'll definitely get a light with them. And overall, I don't think you'll be disappointed. So I hope that this video has been useful. I hope it's been beneficial. If it has, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to pop them in the comment section down below. I'll try my best to get back to them. If you have any specific questions or requests for any further reviews, let me know. And I'll try to get my hand on those specific products. As I said, I hope it's been helpful, and I hope you guys stay safe. Take care.